Okay, so I think we'll get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Corey. So just explaining this webinar a little bit, thank you again for joining us tonight. What we're going to do is all of the panelists will be, you can see us here and we'll be able to speak. So if you have any questions, feel free to just send us a chat with your question and we'll answer it. And for you folks who are on the phone, we'll make sure to read any questions aloud and answer them. And if you have any questions and have access to email right now, feel free to send me an email. I'll be checking that throughout the webinar. That way we're not leaving you guys out too. But Angie, I guess you can take it from here.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us for our first PhD webinar on the Early Childhood Education and Care Program at UMass Boston. We're very excited to have you join us so that we can tell you a little bit more about the program and that you can have an opportunity to ask some questions of both our faculty, myself and Anne, and two of our current students, Amanda and Zach. But we will do some introductions to get started. 1 minute while there we go. Okay, so our agenda for today is introductions first, then going over the program's mission and some of the things that you'll get to do as part of the program, talking about the concentrations that we offer here, and some ways that makes our program unique, some of the research opportunities that you will have when you are a student here, and then Anne will talk about some of your career opportunities and what you can do once you have earned a PhD. And then we'll go over some questions around admission and financial assistance, and then finish with Q&A from anybody who is there. And I noticed that Becky just asked a question about, will we have access to this webinar after, or the PowerPoint after the webinar is over? And yes, Corey can make that available for us. And I think she is also recording this.
We sure are.
So that you can also listen to the questions again. If you missed them, or if, we're also doing another webinar next week on Monday. But if you can't make either one of those, hopefully we can share these with you so that you can get some of your questions answered and get some information. And of course, anyone is always welcome to contact me as the program director and have a personal conversation about your situation. So let's do some introductions. So I'm Angie Stone McDonald. I'm an associate professor in the program, and I'm also the director of the PhD program. And I'm going to let Anne introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Anne Douglas, and I'm also an associate professor of early childhood education. And I direct our undergraduate bachelor's degree program as well as our Postmasters certificate program. And most recently have launched our Institute on Early Education Leadership and Innovation, and I serve as the executive director of that institute.
Thank you, Anne. And our two doctoral students, Amanda, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda, and I'm a second-year PhD student. I came from the PMC, if you're a grad of that. And I don't really know what else to tell you. My track is the teaching and learning in the first 5 years. And my interests in research are creativity development in children, teachers, administrators, and how to foster more creativity and imagination in schools.
Thank you, Amanda. Zach?
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm also a second-year student. Amanda and I are in the same cohort. I came here from outside of the States and after 15 years in the field, and most of my research interests focuses on relationships, how the children, the families, the caregivers all kind of interact with one another, and how things like gender and culture work to influence that.
Great, thank you, Zach. So you will hear more from all of them later on, but just to get started, to let you know about what our mission is in this PhD program, our goal is really to prepare diverse, dynamic, and passionate future leaders who are prepared to support young children's early learning from birth all the way to age 8, and to really transform the opportunities that we have for young children to develop through their family, through teaching and learning, innovative practices, and for us to find new and exciting ways to continue to grow the field and continue to support young children, their families, and teachers. Our areas look at children with disabilities, as well as international opportunities. We have both faculty and students who are interested in working with teaching and learning programs and early childhood programs in a variety of settings. I think one of the things that makes our program really unique is that it is something that allows you to be really innovative and to do the research that helps to move the field forward. So part of our goal in this program is to make sure that everyone who comes into it and that we accept feels like they have a niche and that they're finding that way that they can really be innovative and transform the field. And that is why we have programs that address birth all the way through age 8. So some of our people focus on just birth to 3. Some people focus on preschool. Some people do birth to age 5. And our faculty are really all across those areas and also really across lots of different settings. So as most of you know, early childhood is across a variety of settings. So we have people working with family child care, center-based programs and preschool programs, after school and family support, early intervention, home visiting, as well as early elementary school, so public school programs as well. And we really want to try and make sure that our faculty and our students are looking at and working in all of these different pieces that make up the very diverse early childhood field. So we have 4 concentrations, and in those concentrations, we have a variety of courses that you can choose from to really help you pick those particular courses. There are a set of core courses that you will take prior to or somewhat simultaneously as some of your concentration courses. And those core courses, the first 4 come from the Postmasters certificate program. So if you completed the Postmasters certificate program, then those 4 courses, 701 through 704, are automatically courses that transfer in as part of your PhD program. And then you would move on to our other core courses, which are 705 through 710. That the numbers are not important at this point, but they involve research seminars, the science of early learning, as well as helping you learn to teach in a university setting if that's something that you are interested in doing. Then we have several courses that you will take in research, and we want you to get a well-rounded understanding of research, so both quantitative and qualitative methods, as well as opportunities to look at program evaluation, survey research, and what courses you take will could be chosen with your advisor. And so you work with your advisor to figure out what courses make sense for you. And then we have these concentrations. And so the first one is learning and teaching in the first 5 years. And this particular concentration focuses really on understanding pedagogy, understanding how children learn, and thinking about what infants and toddlers are doing, as well as preschoolers in those classroom or group settings. Leadership, policy, and finance in early childhood education care is really exactly what it says. Leadership, understanding more about how leadership grows, what are the policies around it, finance. Anne, do you want to say anything about this particular concentration?
Yes, I do. So yeah, this is really focused on looking at leadership broadly defined. So how do we cultivate leadership at every level, including among teachers and family child care providers who own businesses and really are the kind of local child care economy in many neighborhoods. So we look at leadership and the potential to invest in every way to strengthen leadership in our field. It's been a very neglected area of the early education and care sector. So that's a big focus of this concentration, as well as policy and finance. So really looking at the systems for the early childhood sector and what are some of the levers for change, ways we might rethink and transform policy and finance systems in ways that would enhance quality, enhance access, and really help to support the kinds of outcomes that all of us who are on this webinar right now care very much about. So that's what this concentration is about.
Okay, and then our sort of final defined concentration is the urban, multilingual, and global context for early childhood education and care. And this particular concentration is for people who are really interested in diving more deeply into the context and understanding what is happening in particular urban settings, what are the experiences of children and families in urban settings or who are multilingual and experiencing, how do they experience the educational process, or in global context, and what does early education and care look like in other countries or for immigrants who are in the United States, as well as this concentration actually also includes inclusive education. So looking at inclusive early childhood education in all of these different settings as well. And then our final concentration, we do have the opportunity to create an individualized concentration if one of these others does not necessarily fit what you want to do. And that would be a conversation again with your advisors and the people that you're working on with research to figure out if what you're interested in really would be an individualized concentration and what kinds of courses you would want to take in order to develop that particular concentration. So throughout the program, students will participate in research with their program faculty. So right now, students are assigned to one research mentor, and sometimes students work with an additional research mentor on different grants depending on what their interests are and what opportunities they have. And regardless of what you are interested in doing, we want to find ways that you can continue to participate in research, that you have opportunities to work on and write grants, that you have opportunities to look at a variety of different methodologies. So even if you are interested potentially for your dissertation in using one particular type of methodology, we want you to be working with faculty who have a variety of opportunities. And also opportunities to learn and work with policymakers. I see there's a question, what does professional field mean to say? There's been a recent discussion on semantics of professionals or the profession. And you want to take this one?
My question about the question is, was that on a slide or was it referring to something you said? So I'm not sure how to clarify.
Yeah. That's where I was confused.
Oh, okay, okay. So professionals or the profession. Well, I think often when we talk, we're thinking about early childhood professionals as a term that is really just intended to be inclusive of the different roles people have. So rather than saying teacher, we're thinking about teachers and educators and family child care owners and those kinds of things. So, okay, it was something that Angie had said. So I think probably that's the context of saying professionals to be a broadly inclusive term for the people who work in this sector. So I hope that can be helpful and clarify, but thank you for that question.
Yeah. So, and then I guess the final part, which I had said about working with opportunities to work with policymakers. So I wanted to just give some examples of some of the different research projects that various faculty are working on and students have the opportunity to work on, just to give you some ideas. So from the international side, that my research, one aspect of it centers around work in Tanzania. And so I have students who are working with surveys that I have done there, as well as helping me with a literature review. And then we also have a study around the fidelity of the implementation of the Battelle Developmental Inventory, which is an assessment that's given in early intervention. And we've done a variety of things with that. And both Amanda and Zach have worked on that particular project in different ways, both in working with some of our quantitative data as well as coding videos that we have of people giving the assessment in order to understand the various interactions that are happening during that particular assessment. Anne, would you like to give any examples of research that you have been working on?
Sure. I'll give an example of a qualitative study that we have just wrapped up the data collection and are starting to get set up to do qualitative coding using the Atlas TI software. And this is a project called Trauma-Informed Care for Young Children and Families. It was a federally funded project, and we served as the evaluation team. And I've had a number of graduate students working on this research study over the last 3 years already when we were doing data collection. So people were out in the field. They were conducting observations of professional learning seminars and sessions. They were interviewing individuals who participated in this intervention to improve trauma-informed care in urban child care centers. And they, in some cases, ran focus groups where we were collecting data from groups of people, teams who had participated also in this initiative. And so there was a very intensive, several waves of data collection. We collected data pre, mid, and post during this intervention. And now we are gearing up to start spending probably a good year with multiple people coding this qualitative data to try to understand the dynamics of quality improvement and how people learn to become more trauma-informed and what impact that has on children and families who are served.
Thanks. Amanda, do you have any examples from other research with other faculty?
Well, you just mentioned two big projects. I think one of the other projects is working with Anne and the Institute on the implementation of a program through EEC, where we are providing coaching and support for different aspects of the preschool expansion grant here in Massachusetts. So it's visiting different communities, talking with people about the challenges that they face in their work with the preschool expansion, and then coming back and strategizing for how to offer them more support. That's one of the other big projects that I work on. But you just also mentioned two that I work on, so Zach probably has more examples than me.
Zach, do you have some others to add?
I've worked on several evaluation projects. One was an evaluation of a STEM curriculum that was piloting a curriculum that was developed in Sandwich. And it was moved to a couple of different programs looking at the differences in both the settings and how the professional development was implemented and whether or not it actually meant change in the classroom. The other big one that I spend a lot of time on is an early Head Start childcare partnership grant evaluation, actually with Anne and Rachel Chasen-Cohen, and just going through and interviewing directors, teachers, trying to get a bigger picture of what is going on and how all of these systems work together to expand the reach of what Early Head Start, how it reaches families. So,
thank you. Okay. So Anne, do you want to talk about our career opportunities?
Sure. Well, there are many different paths people take once they earn a PhD. So this is kind of a challenging assignment to address that. But I think what's most important is that sometimes we might think that you get a PhD and you either go work in higher education or you work in a research organization, a think tank. And those are two probably really some of the most common pathways people take. They're not the only ones. So one of the reasons we launched this PhD program was to fill a gap in higher education in having faculty with expertise, particularly in birth to 5. It is very hard to find faculty with expertise in birth to 5 early childhood education and care. And a lot of people come trained, from working with older grades and or without expertise, from actually working in the field themselves as well. Almost all of our faculty, I think all our faculty have worked extensively in the early care and education sector, early childhood special ed, early intervention, prior to coming into higher education. And so have really a breadth of knowledge, not just about research and research methods and that kind of thing, but really about what the big questions in the field are. And I think we've been really successful attracting doctoral students who share that passion for strengthening and building our field and bringing expertise from the field and developing the kinds of research knowledge and skills and mindsets to really think about having an even greater impact. So the point of saying all that is that people pursue many different paths. People go into higher ed. There is a great need in higher ed for faculty. People become full-time researchers. They work either as full-time researchers as a research appointment in higher ed. So you can have an appointment where you're doing teaching as well as research, early childhood teacher education. That's what all of us here do. But there are also research-specific positions where people are working in higher ed or places like Child Trends or Mathematica or RAND or APT. So there's all kinds of different research organizations that hire people to conduct research for people who want to purchase those services. So there's a lot of great research that comes out of those institutions, and many of us work in collaborative partnerships with those kinds of research organizations. Some people take a PhD and they go into a leadership or administrative position in the field, either in a state system, a school district level system. So there are many ways that a PhD can really provide the type of background and knowledge that can be helpful in those kinds of positions. There are people who are interested in state policy type work, working with national or international professional associations, and in policy related positions. So there are many different paths people take, and sometimes people enter a PhD program and they are thinking they want to go one pathway and they go a different pathway. When I first started my PhD, I'd been working in the field for 20 years. And I really thought I wanted to do some type of research policy focused job. I wasn't thinking I was going into higher ed. And part of that is I really wanted to stay close to the field. And I was worried that in most higher education institutions, you don't have that opportunity. And then when the job opened up at UMass Boston, I thought, this is my dream job. I'm working in the community. This is an urban institution that is really committed to community engagement and values that. We have the most amazing students, I think, of any higher ed institution, people who bring so much of a wealth of expertise in the field and use that to inform their academic work at the university. So anyway, you know, there are many different options, and I encourage people to think about what you're most passionate about, but know that you might, other paths may open for you, and that can be a good thing too.
Thank you. I do think it is a really good point about being connected to the community and to the field, because I know when I started my PhD program, I had come out of a preschool classroom working with children with disabilities, and I was really concerned that I was not going to be able to be with children and that I was leaving children behind, and that made me sad. And then I got into my program and I realized that there were all these opportunities to still be connected to both the community and to classrooms, and you just needed to figure out how to do that through your various opportunities. And so that's something that is, you know, still there if that's what you really, really want to do. We do have a question about, when do doctoral students decide on their concentration, and what would the process be if one decides to pursue a different concentration a year or two into the program? So generally our doctoral students will complete a program of study, so basically a plan for their coursework for the time that they're there, sometime around the beginning of their second semester to the end of their second semester. So that's a time that you would want to think about what your concentration is going to be. But because you're taking several courses along the way each semester, that both research courses as well as core courses, that, and then you may have some elective courses in there. So it's possible that if you chose one concentration and then after a year or so you decided you wanted a different concentration, it's certainly possible. It just might mean an additional couple of courses, but that is certainly fine. An additional question that came up is, when are we assigned our advisor, and is our advisor assigned to us based on our concentration or our area of interest? So you were initially assigned a primary advisor as soon as you are part of the program. So you would, if you're admitted for this coming fall, that sometime probably in August, you would find out who your initial advisor is. And yet, sometimes your advisor is assigned to you based on your interest or concentration, or who you indicate through the admissions process that you are interested in working with. But also it's possible that you would be assigned an advisor who may not be one of those people, because we do want you to work with several different faculty during your time here. So your initial advisor might be somebody different. But sorry. Your advisor is somebody that you would get to know, and then if in the second year you want to find a different choose a different advisor based on who you've worked with research, that's also certainly possible. Okay, And that was a cameo appearance from my cat. This is Lacey. So, if I can get it. Sorry, there we go. So, admission information. Our application deadline this year is January 15th. And in order to apply, you need to supply your official transcripts for both your bachelor's degree as well as your master's degree. And then also, if you completed the Postmasters certificate program, your UMass transcript for that as well. 2 letters of recommendation. And we like one of those letters to be a letter from somebody who knows your academic ability. And then the other letter can be from someone who you work with, who knows your professional ability, or it can also be an academic reference. We do require GRE scores for international applicants. I don't know if we have any international applicants on the webinar, but we also have, you can supply us with either your TOEFL or your IELTS exam. We have a writing sample that's 3 to 5 pages, and that writing sample can be a paper you did for your master's degree, or it can be some other writing sample that you completed for another purpose. It can be from a paper that you did for the Postmaster certificate if you did that program. And then there's a statement of purpose, and that statement of purpose has some specific questions, and that's available on our website for the information of what you need to write about your statement of purpose. And then finally, a copy of your resume or your CV that includes all of your education and work experience. And so those are the things that need to be turned in, and we need to have in order for us to be able to review your file. So financial assistance. Financial assistance is a tricky question, and we have to be very careful in how we say things, but we do want to make sure that we share some information that there is financial assistance. Before I move to that, let me just check. If it has been some time, there's a question, if it has been some time since your graduate degree, is it possible to have recommendations from, 2 recommendations from professionals? Yes, it is possible. That will not make you unable to be eligible for the program. You can certainly do that. You can certainly send us 2 professional recommendations if it's been quite a while since your master's degree. Okay. Any other questions before I move to financial assistance? Okay. I'm going to move on, and if there's any questions, just please type them and I will get to each of them. So we can offer students funding to cover their tuition and fees. So we do have what we call graduate assistantships that are available. And the graduate assistantships are covering your tuition and fees. And then they also provide a living stipend. And that living stipend would help to cover the costs of rent, transportation, books, etc. And then also there is health insurance available if needed. The financial assistance that covers your tuition and fees and gives you the living expenses covers most of the cost of your health insurance, but not quite all of it, just so that you know. We are always told that we have this to offer students who are admitted. We have a certain number, so the funding is competitive, but it is always pending budget approval. And we also have to say that it is renewable each year. We are told that we do get to, continue to give it to you across years, but technically we're only allowed to say for 1 year. But our idea is that we would, if we admit you for the program, that we would, and you would receive graduate assistantship as part of the program, then you would be funded for the program. So if you have questions about that, I can try and be a little more clear and specific. Anne, did you have anything to add about that?
No, I don't know if you were going to also add that part of the assistantship is receiving these benefits, which are quite impressive and not something you can get everywhere you go. So we're really fortunate that we have pending budget approval this to offer, and that we have many students currently who are receiving these benefits. And as part of that, students work with faculty. Part of their assistantship is to work 18 hours a week with faculty on research projects. So you're getting research training, but it is part of the kind of obligation of the GA-ship is that the graduate assistantship, that you're doing that research work with faculty on faculty research projects.
Yes, thank you, Anne, for pointing that out. That's an excellent point. The graduate assistant provides wonderful benefits, but it is a job for 18 hours that you are expected to do in exchange for those benefits that you're getting. And so it's important to know that, but that all of the experience that you get through your assistantship is helping you and supporting you in growing your knowledge in the field as well as your research skills. Let me answer a few of these questions. So we had a question from Becky. I haven't taken the GRE. Do you still think there's time to complete for the January deadline, or do you recommend waiting until the next cycle? Honestly, I'm not exactly sure about that, but I do think that the GRE is a test you can take at various sites.
Yes, you can take it. There's dates from now almost every single day, all the way up until March. So there's plenty of opportunities. You can find a place close to where you're at.
Yeah. So I think there are definitely places and ways to take that. You can go online and look at where how they offer the GRE, and you can find a way to take the GRE if you're interested in applying for this particular cycle. And then if you just choose UMass Boston as our program as the one that you're interested in, when you take it, it will send your scores to us. So you will also get a score report. So I think if you're interested, that should not be a reason not to apply this time. Let's see, we have another question about someone who did their master's from NJ, their master's a few years ago, and they submitted their bachelor's transcript. Do they need to do it again? Technically the answer is yes, because usually we don't have those, but if it's only a couple of years ago, we may be able to locate it if it's in the electronic system. We can talk to you, NJ, on an individual basis and figure that out, because I understand why yours is very difficult to find. That makes sense. Let's see, a question from Maureen. If you are a recent PMC student, will the professors be amenable to writing references, even if they have not seen you for 2 years? Yes, they will definitely be amenable. That is fine. I know that, other faculty I've taught in the PMC program as well, and I am also, I think several of us have written, before I became the PhD director, I was able to write letters for people who I wanted to recommend, so that's fine. How highly do you rank the GRE scores when considering the applicants? We need you to take the test. We do look at them definitely, but it is just one part of the picture. I do not want you to be stressed out about what your GRE scores are or are not. I want you to know that they are one part of a much larger picture that we look at. And so they are there because they are a tool that sometimes is helpful in us understanding graduate work, but it also is just one piece of a larger puzzle. Okay. We also have a question from Melody, who's on the phone. Can the 18 hours, one moment, can the 18 hours of GA work be done around our schedules? So yes, we can be flexible in those 18 hours of work. There are some projects that if you are working on those, that depending on what your schedule is and what you're doing, that they aren't as flexible. So if you're collecting data, for example, in a school or in a center where you need to be there at specific times to help collect that data, then it's not as flexible. But then there are other projects where the work you are doing, such as sometimes certain coding you can do on your own schedule. It sort of depends. And so if you have specific concerns about your schedule and what you're doing now, I'm happy to talk to you individually about that. But we do try and make this something that's flexible so that you can get your classes in, you can do the work you need to do. And we know you all still have families and other obligations, other things you like to do. I'm a runner, and I got my run in before this webinar tonight, so we all have things we want to do as well. Sorry. Okay, thank you, Zach, for sending the GRE information, and that there are plenty of options. Is there a particular grade or cutoff mark before one can be said? No, right now we do not have a cutoff at all. Please don't be concerned that your GRE score is something that will make you not eligible for the program. Like I said, we really consider all of the pieces of who the applicant is and what their goals are and how they fit in the program, how they fit with the faculty. Question for Maureen. Will you be discussing part-time or less than full-time possibilities for this program? And if it's flexible, can you explain that more? So there are options that we can talk about individually around the number of courses that you take, but also that if you're not taking a full course load, then the GA shifts are a little bit different in how they work, meaning they're also not the full GA shift. It is a flexible program in that most of our classes are offered, that are core classes, are offered on Fridays and Saturdays. If you've participated in the PMC program, some of the classes that you've taken are some of the classes we offer on Saturdays. But we also are offering most of our, all of our classes for the core on Fridays. And then there are classes, some research classes and other courses that you can take that are on Saturdays or Fridays. But we say it's flexible, but we also want you to know that some of the courses in your concentrations or in your possibly some of the research options you choose may be offered on days and times other than the Fridays and Saturdays. And so we attempt to be flexible, but we also know that there are classes you may have to take that meet on a Tuesday morning or a Thursday morning. And so at some point you may have to be available for those. But if you have additional questions around what you are currently doing and what you see yourself doing if you were to join this program, again, we can talk about that on a more individual level. Anne, did you want to add something more on the flexible?
I would just say that the point of the flexible is to try to enable people who are managing other things at the same time as taking this program, and so making this really be a program that's accessible to as many people as possible. And so this is something that we've been spending a lot of time on our end trying to figure out how we do that right. And so I think the reason, Angie has indicated that it's so important to kind of speak individually is that understanding what you're trying to balance in considering applying to this program and participating in this program, and what your interests are. There are certain concentrations and paths within concentrations where the coursework we already know, because it's offered through kind of interdisciplinary departments at the university. We can tell you already, if you're really interested in studying brain sciences, you are going to have coursework during the day, during the week. That is not the path to choose if you are hoping that you're going to be able to work Monday through Thursday from 8 to 4. Whereas there are other concentrations where the kinds of courses that you would be taking and building your program around may in fact be in the evenings. So again, this is a individualized program in many ways, and you really are, within your concentration, you're picking courses from kind of a menu of courses that we've identified at the university across different disciplines that fulfill the requirements for that concentration. So, so again, we're really open to having individual conversations. Angie as the program director, but also all the rest of the faculty. We really encourage people to reach out through Corey or through Angie to connect with faculty who have interests that you're interested in, and having conversations with the faculty to share what your interests are and what you're looking for in a program, and helping to give you the kind of information you need to make a really informed decision.
Thank you. So Cecile asked, is this the first year to offer the PhD? No, actually, this is Zach and Amanda are both in their second year. So we now have 2 cohorts, and we are looking for next year for our 3rd cohort. And then Kelly asked the question, is there a current course catalog and schedule available online? If you go to our website where the ECEC PhD information is, you'll find sort of that menu of courses, and I think you can find courses that are listed there. I'm not sure if it is accessible to you if you're not a UMass Boston student or faculty, if you can see when classes are offered. And also, we don't really know, like we know when our classes are offered in the spring, and we know when we generally offer our courses, but knowing when specific courses are offered by other departments, we couldn't tell you right now, but we can give you a general idea. But you can certainly see the various options on that menu through our website.
There is a way to go online and see courses from different departments, but the times may change or what semesters they're offered. So you don't want to use that reliably to build a schedule. I've learned that, but you can look at it for what your choices would be for other classes. So if you kind of want to know what other departments offer, that could give you a sense. And you can either click through by department if you know what kind of interest you'd be in, or there is a place, and I'll look for the link and post it. Zach just posted it. that has all a more comprehensive list.
Thank you. Amanda or Zach, do you want to add anything about your experience in the program?
I can talk a little bit about the transition from the Postmaster certificate.
Sure.
So I was in Cohort 2 of the Postmaster certificate, and then I think it was a year between, or 2 years, I lose track of the time, between when I finished the Postmaster certificate and started the PhD. And I felt like I was well prepared to come. I did leave my job. I'm a full-time student. I felt like, if, for those of you who are in the PMC or finished the PMC, you know that it pushes you really hard to be working full-time and be taking a full course load on top of that. So I always joked if I could do that, I could do anything. And I have found that the transition into being a full-time PhD student was manageable, I think in large part because I was so prepared by the PMC. And then it's really been nice for me to have those classes transfer fully in because it gave me some flexibility that I can now take an extra elective potentially because I have already taken those core requirements out of the way because of the way that my cohort was structured. There's been some changes in that now, but if you took the PMC a few years ago, then you might have some of that flexibility. I don't know if
Zach, do you want to add anything?
So I have to say that the faculty are what makes this program what it is, and I'm not saying that simply because they're here, but all the faculty are very invested in us in a way that is. I mean, I can walk into basically anybody's office, sit down, have a long conversation about something I'm having a problem with. Life, school, anything like that, and they're there for us. They care about us. And from my friends in other PhD programs across the country, that is not always the case. And it says something about our faculty, just how great they are. And I mean, I was out of school for 7 years before I came back, and transition was a little tough initially, getting back into there, but I survived, and you guys can too. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. We do have a question about how does one go about to inquire or apply for the PMC program. Anne, would you like to share that information?
Sure, and I'll just say a little something more about it because it ended up being referenced many, many times. And for people who aren't familiar, you're probably wondering what is this PMC thing that people keep talking about. So we run a program called the Postmasters Certificate in Early Education Research Policy and Practice. It is a 4-course sequence of courses that, as you have heard, are fully transferable into the PhD program. And one reason we created that program for 2 purposes. One is to serve as a pathway for people who are practitioners in the field, who are interested in an advanced academic and leadership program, and who may be interested in a PhD program as well. So it was designed as a pathway to the PhD. And it was also designed just as a standalone, really advanced professional learning opportunity for people who are interested in learning about how they can contribute to strengthening the field and having a greater impact on improvement. So we have many people who have participated in that program who are out being change agents in our field right now, and it's really exciting to see what people have done as a result of that program. And we also have some of our PhD students and applicants who are graduates of that program. The program, you apply for it. We usually open the application for it. I don't know if it's open yet now, but we open it usually at the first of the year, so in January, and applications are due in the spring for a fall start. And one of the things I think that helps people who are maybe not sure about the PhD yet, or who want to kind of get a sense of what it's like to do doctoral level work, is this provides that opportunity, and it gives you a chance to really refine what you're most interested in possibly pursuing at the PhD level. So what a lot of students do is they come in and they have an interest in something. It could be they're really interested in social emotional learning with toddlers, or they're really interested in how do we have better approaches to improving family engagement, or better policies for family child care providers. So people have a lot of different interests. They come in and they really start to have an opportunity to focus deeply on what are really the gaps in the field right now in regards to this issue that we care so much about. what are some of the solutions that have been tried, what are the results of that. So people really start to carve out, as Angie mentioned, kind of a niche of what they're really most interested in. And when people enter a doctoral program and have a sense of that, first of all, their application is a lot stronger. And second of all, through the Postmasters program, they kind of they might have meandered down a few pathways before they kind of start to get a little greater clarity on what they want to do. And again, that really gives you a leg up. Some people, could do that. And, people always say these are the hardest 4 courses I've ever taken in my life. They are doctoral level courses. They're very rigorous. There's a lot of reading. There's high standards for and high expectations for what you're going to be able to learn in each of these courses. But people really experience incredible growth as a result of that, and really often become very empowered about pursuing what they're most passionate about when it comes to their doctoral study.
And Kelly asked, is the Postmasters program available online? And so right now it is a hybrid program, so that you have some courses, some weeks your courses are online through our learning management system, and then you do have some Saturdays that you meet for several hours, and you would get that information ahead of time as to which Saturdays those are, but then you would meet on Saturdays for some face-to-face time. Any other questions for anyone? Is there an application fee? Yes, there is an application fee, and I'm pretty sure that it is $60, but that would be on the website. That's an excellent question, and I should know the answer to that. But I do think it is $60. Other questions? Let's okay. Also have a question. How many years would you estimate that the part-time program would take? Melody asked this question. That is a difficult one to say how long it would take. I think a full-time program, including your coursework, your comprehensive exams, your dissertation research, would be roughly 4 years, is sort of an estimate. Some students we know may take 5 years. So if you took your coursework part-time, coursework is generally 3 years, but if you've done the Postmasters program, which I know you have, Melody, that it might reduce it slightly. So I don't have a great estimate for you, but I'm thinking that if you did your courses part-time, that it would extend it closer to 4 to 5 years for courses, and then you would have dissertation, comprehensive exams and dissertation research. But again, we can talk about that more individually in terms of what you might need to do for the timeline. Is it possible to apply but wait until the second semester to start? That is a really good question. We would need to look into that. I'm not exactly sure. One thing we would like is for students to start as a cohort, but we are willing to be flexible. So let me leave that as an open question, and we can look into what that would look like for people if they wanted to start. And again, that would probably be based on what is you trying to balance in your particular life that would make that an important question.
I can speak about the benefits of being part of a cohort.
Sure, thanks.
I think, the benefit is that this is a life change for one thing, especially if you're a provider and you're kind of transitioning out of the field into study, or you're balancing study with work if you're doing part-time. You're going to need a network of support. And who better to know the challenges of balancing PhD work than fellow PhD students? Not only is my cohort a great resource of support, but they're also a great sounding board. We talk to each other all the time. Zach and I had an 1.5-hour meeting today, I think, where we were planning to study, but we spent most of the time talking about different research interests and posing questions, bouncing things back off of each other. It helps broaden your understanding of the issues that we talk about in class, but it also deepens your engagement with the research that you're doing, and it keeps you, I think it helps you be a better researcher, which we get from the faculty as well, but it's helpful to have people who are, kind of in the weeds with you, to be able to talk about that. And then, I think there's also the social aspect. There is camaraderie that we get with each other, and that's really beneficial when you're, faced with a stats final, or you're have a big research project that you're trying to balance, or something going on in your life, on top of everything else you're doing. That it's really great to have a tight-knit group to be part of. And I think that now we have the second cohort, we reach out to them, and we're all really supportive of each other. It's a really a real atmosphere of camaraderie. So
Thanks, Amanda. Yes, I know my group of doctoral students when I was a student was very, very, very helpful to me. We did get the exact answer that the application fee, if you're on the phone, is $60 for US-based students and $100 for international students. We did have a question from Susan about online courses and summer courses. So our core courses right now, the 4 that are part of the Postmasters certificate program are the hybrid, as I mentioned. So those are the courses that have some online work and some Saturdays. I'm not right now thinking of any other courses that you would take that are available online, but they might exist. In terms of summer courses, there are some summer courses that are available, but the tricky thing is around funding. So if you have a GA-ship, the GA-ship does, at the moment, we're not sure how that's going to work with summer courses, but again, this would be something that we can talk about in terms of individualizing for different students, because I know that is definitely something that has come up for other people. So we can definitely look into that and think about that, because I know there are other doctoral programs in our college that do summer courses. And so if we can figure out how to make sure your courses are still funded if you have a GA-ship, then we can make that work. Any other questions, comments?
Angie, there was a question about whether the GRE was the general test or the psych test. It's the general test, correct?
Yes, it is a general test, not the psych test. Thank you. I missed that question.
honestly, that almost kept me from applying. I was terrified of taking the GRE. I had been out of my master's program for almost a decade when I decided to pursue a PhD. And I talked to a lot of different people and finally just decided that I just need to do it, basically. And you know, it was just going to be a number, and that number was just one of many aspects of a very broad application process. So, like Angie said, don't let it stop you from moving forward, and just go and check it off the list, and then write a really great statement of purpose.
Okay. let's see, wait, there's maybe one more question. Can the application be submitted before the GREs are taken? Yes, it can be submitted. We can't, I think we can actually review your application or start to review it without that, but you can definitely submit pieces. So if you're thinking of applying for this particular cycle, it's important to get your application started so that you have what you need in, and you do your part, just the basic online application, and then you can add the pieces, the statement of purpose, the GRE scores, getting your recommenders to do their recommendation letters, and etc. But yeah, you can definitely do that before the GREs are taken. So,
and alongside the PowerPoint and the recording of this webinar, I'll make sure to link all of the pages to the graduate admissions page. That way you can kind of take a look at the application and see what it's like, and maybe start it. It's nice because you can log in and start it and kind of, like Angie said, piece it together. So if you want to tackle it all in one night, go for it. But it's nice because you can go back and kind of fill it in as you go. But I'll make sure to send that out to everyone.
Okay, I think we're already at 8:10, so I'm not seeing any additional questions. So I really want to thank Zach and Amanda and Anne for joining us, and Corey for hosting the webinar, setting everything up for everyone. And I really am excited at all of the people who came to the webinar. It was really great to do this. This is my first webinar I think I've had ever that I've led. So sorry for any little hiccups or bumps, but hopefully you have learned a lot and you're as excited as we are about our PhD program. And I hope to hear from all of you via email or phone calls, or seeing your application soon. And again, we are all open to any questions that you might have. And I'm sure if you have questions for Zach and Amanda that you want to ask, but you don't want to ask when the faculty are looking, you're absolutely, we can provide emails for them as well, so that you can contact them and ask them questions to get other information. But if not, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for your kind comments, and I will let you get back to the rest of your evenings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.